Welcome back to my channel, guys. Today we're going to be drafting overbust corset pattern. I'm marking out the top line, which will serve as our shoulder line as well. I'm going to mark from the shoulder line to my bust point. From the top line, I'm also going to mark my shoulder line to under bust measurement. I'm marking my shoulder line to my waistline in front. After that, I'm then going to mark the length of my toe, which is also my hip line. Now I'm just going to rule out those points that I've marked, making it a horizontal line. So this is our shoulder line, our bust point, under bust point, waist point, and our hip line, which is also the length of our corset. I'll mark 3 inches, that will serve as my neck width, and then 7.5 for half of my shoulder measurement, and I'll come down by 1 inch. I'm going to create my shoulder slope using my ruler. From the 3 inches neck width, I'll connect it to the point below, and then I'm going to make sure it's 3 inches, which is our neck width, and I'll come down by 3 inches, which is going to be the depth of our neckline. I'm going to use my pattern master to create our neckline. So we're going to mark the half measurement of our armhole circumference. After marking the point, I'm going to use my ruler to make it a horizontal line that will serve as our chest line. I'm going to connect our shoulder slope down to the chest line. I'm going to measure that point and then divide it by 2 and mark the point. So after that, I'll come in by half an inch. On my chest line, I'm going to be marking my bust measurement divided by 4, which is 9 inches. I'm going to mark it there. To be using my pattern master to create an armhole curve, which is what I'm doing. Bust line, mark half of your nipple to nipple measurement. Mine is 3.5. I'm going to mark it. I'm going to do the same on my under bust, my waistline, as well as the hip line. So now I'm going to use my ruler to create a straight line on those points I have just marked. So on the shoulder joining, I'm going to measure it and divide it into 2 equal halves, and I will mark that point. After that, then I'll use the ruler to connect it to my bust point. To create that, on my waist point, I'm going to be coming in by 3/4 inch on both sides. That will serve as our dart. I'm going to connect the point to the bust point on both sides. So on the waist, I'm going to come down by 5.5 inches, and this I'm going to use to finish our dart. On the bust line, I'm going to mark our bust circumference divided by 4. Same I'll do for waist circumference divided by 4, and I'll transfer this dart over to the side. So on the hip line, I'm going to mark our hip circumference divided by 4, and then connect the point with my ruler. Aside that, I'm going to be subtracting the length of my shoulder line to waist at the back, subtracting it from the front. So in the front I have 17 inches and at the back I have 15.5 inches. So when I subtract that, I would have 1.5 inch as the difference, and I'm going to use that to create a side dart. The ruler to create a slant line, which is going to be a side dart. What I'm going to do is to extend our dart. So I'm going to, from our waist, draw a straight line downwards to connect to our hip line. I'm going to do that on both sides, and also I'm going to extend it upward to our under bust line, and then I'm going to use the curved end of our pattern master to create a curvy end to join the bust point to the under bust point, and I'm going to do that on both sides. Now, I'm not doing anything new, I'm just using my marker to make the lines bolder. On the chest line, I'm going to come up by 3.5 inches, and then I'll create a horizontal line on that point. On this line, we're going to be tracing the neckline depth of our corset later. Same point, I'm going to be marking 1/4 of an inch on both sides. And then I'll use my ruler to connect the point to the bust point to create another dart. Next thing I'm going to do is to extend the point to the shoulder joining on both sides. Next, I'm going to highlight the side darts, and after highlighting our side darts, I'll then cut it open. While cutting your side darts open, do not go beyond your bust point. Make sure to stop at your bust point. I'm going to fold in my dart and I'm going to move it across. So I'm going to start from this line. And I'm going to fold it across. So this is after cutting the side dart, and you're going to be cutting on your bust point. So this is so that we can draw out the neckline. If you don't do this before drawing out the neckline, you find that one side will be longer than the other side. But to get equal neckline, we need to fold in the dart. So fold in the dart, this is going to show you what it's going to look like. So this is like you having to stitch the pattern, and this is what it's going to come out like. So you see that it's not exactly equal in terms of length. So that's why we need to fold it in like we're stitching it to draft out the neckline, which will give us accurate neckline. Of the dart has been folded, we're just going to be extending our armhole to mark 1/2 inch there and 1/2 inch here. The essence of this is to prevent our boobs from being exposed. So because that shoulder line has been closed in, so it's going to move the bust point inwards, and that would expose our boobs. So extending the armhole would help prevent our boobs from being exposed. We're going to use the curved end of our pattern master to extend our armhole. I'm going to extend the sides into my armhole. So this is going to be the neckline of my corset. So to close this our dart right here, we're going to slit this point open to push this forward and then close our dart. So on this middle line now, I'm going to slit it open straight down to the bust point. I'll stop at the bust point. I'm going to get a sellotape and fold in our darts. So I'll get sellotape and hold down the darts side. To redefine the side seam, I'm going to connect my new armhole point down to my waist point with my ruler. On my hip line, I'm going to be transferring this dart right here. I'll take it down to my seam end, and then I'll mark those points. Now I would use my ruler to connect my waist to my new hip point. So to create another panel, I'm just going to draw a strand line by gauging the midpoint of the waist. So with that, I'm going to draw a strand line. So that line will serve as another corset panel. So on the waist point on the new panel, I'm going to be coming in by 1/4 an inch on both sides, and I'm going to use my ruler to create a new dart. The reason for this is to cinch the waist. I'm going to finish the dart by connecting the waist to the hip point. So now I'm going to highlight the dots or cancel it out. That's how I say it, but I'm only cancelling out the dots so you know where you're cutting through if you want to cut out your pattern. You can't leave this like that. Usually corsets are usually short. If it's not short, then it's going to be difficult for you to sit down and be comfortable. So you just want it to sit on the top of your waist or a little bit lower than your waist, but not on your hip because it will be too uncomfortable. So now we're going to derive the curve of our. So what we're going to do to derive the curve, we're going to mark 4 inches on this point, and on this point I'll use 6 inches. So on the center front below the waist, I'm marking 6 inches, and on the side I have marked below the waist 4 inches. Now I'm going to use my ruler to create the curved end of our corset. So this is our center front, and this is our side front, and this is our side front again. So I'll use this as panel 1, panel 2, panel 3. On this part, I'm going to do something like this, so you know what point is joining to what point, and what point is going to join to what point by the time you are sewing. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the pattern, and we'll be done with the front corset pattern, and next we'll move to the back pattern. Here is what our front corset pattern looks like. Now we'll be moving on the back, and I'm going to start by marking my top line, which is 1 inch from the pattern edge. Next thing we're going to do is to mark out our points. So I'm marking out my bust point, the waist point, and now the length of our corset. I will then go ahead and draw out the lines. Remember that the shoulder line to waistline on the back is usually shorter, so the front is longer because of the bust. So don't be surprised if you see that the lengths are not the same like it was on the front. So now I'm just going to mark half measurement of my shoulder and then come down by 1 inch, mark 3 inches as the width of my shoulder to create my shoulder slope. So next, what I'm going to do is to mark half measurement of my armhole, and then I'll create a straight line. I'm going to connect the shoulder slope to the newly drawn line, then measure the line and divide it into 2 equal parts. Mark the point and come in by half an inch. On the chest line, mark bust divided by 4, and then use our pattern master to create our armhole curve. So nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 is what I'm marking on all the horizontal lines, and then I'll create a straight line to connect those points together. So now I'm going to mark 3/4 inch on both sides to create our darts, and I'll measure from waist down by 5 inch. So we'll finish up our darts. I'll connect that point to our waist point. I'll do that on the other side as well. To finish our darts, I'm also going to connect my waist point to the chest line and do on both sides. So on my bust line, I'm going to mark bust measurement divided by 4, same on my waist divided by 4, and I'll transfer the darts. On the hip line, I'm marking hip measurement divided by 4. I'll use ruler to connect those points together to create the body shape. I'm going to create our neckline, connecting the center back to the armhole, creating a curved line. Make sure that your 2 patterns are equal. Place your front pattern on your waist, make sure, and then mark the end of the corset, and then align the waist properly. This is for it to sit on the same part, the front and the back. So I'm just going to redefine my seam, and next I'm going to do is to redefine also the curve. Now use the curvy end of my pattern master to create our corset hem. This is our corset hem. On the dark area, mark 1/4 inch on both sides on the top, and also 1/4 inch on the bottom on both sides. Now I'll use my ruler to create a straight line connecting those newly drawn points to my waist, and also from my waist to my neckline. I'll do that on both sides. So this is just to cinch our waist and our back to make the corset look very fitted. After that, I'm just going to create my eyelet part. This is where I'm going to be placing my eyelet on my fabric. That's after sewing. I'm doing this now because I do not want to forget. So this is just serving as a reminder anytime I see the pattern and I'm stitching, so I don't sew it wrongly. So this is just to remind me that I have an eyelet to impute on this side of my pattern on the fabric when I'm sewing. So it doesn't change anything. It doesn't actually affect, you do it or not, it doesn't change the fit of your fabric. It's just going to help you to remember to do what you should do when you're sewing. So on my side back, I'm going to divide the remaining of my pattern into 2 equal parts, and after marking that, I'll create a straight line. This is also to divide it and create a new panel, just like we did in the front. On both sides of the newly drawn line, I'm just going to mark 1/4 inch on both sides. So now I'm going to use my ruler to create like a dot. So I'll do that on both sides as well, connecting the top end to the waist and the waist to the bottom end as well, doing on both sides. So this has divided our panel, and we've got an extra panel. So this is panel 1, panel 2, and then panel 3. Make sure that our front and back side seam align. I'm just going to mash them together. So now you see that it's all aligned, and now I'm going to be cutting out the pattern. Our front and our back pattern placed together. On my next video, I'm going to show you how to cut them on the fabric and stitch them together. Thank you guys. If you enjoyed the process of this video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Bye. See you on my next project.